everybody? This is Morgan J. Ingram here with another episode of the SDR Chronicles, bringing in special guests for you guys to learn more about sales development and how you can excel in your career in tech sales. So today I have Alec, super knowledgeable sales development professional, super knowledgeable in sales and in tech. So I decided to bring her on the show today. And the topic we're going to dive into today is how to ramp SDRs quickly. It's something that's super important and she's very passionate about it. So without any further ado, I'm going to let Alec introduce herself and then we're going to go into the topic of the day.
Hi guys, like Morgan said, my name's Alec. I have been in the SDR world, both as a rep, team lead, manager, you name it, I've done it. The last several years out here in the tech space in Utah. Sales development, it's something like you mentioned, I'm passionate about it. It's not quite sales, but it has a lot of sales aspects to it, which makes it very interesting and intriguing. And I'm excited to talk about how we can get you guys as SDRs ramped up quickly.
Awesome. So first question for you, Alec, is what is the disconnect from SDRs ramping quickly?
I would say one of the biggest disconnects that I see with SDRs getting ramped up quickly, first and foremost, it's going to kind of depend on the organization, but the biggest, most common issue I see is training that's not set up properly. So I've been with a lot of organizations who try to train really quickly on the product and here's our company and here's what it does, but maybe don't focus enough on the actual SDR role. They just assume that you know how to do that, and that's going to make it really hard. You may be a great SDR, but if you haven't been given the tools on how to be an SDR, you can also know everything about the product, but you're not going to be successful if you don't have that type of coaching and training in place as well.
So the question in lies there is that why does it feel that if you're going to come in and you know all this processes, what can you do to get those processes in line so that when an SDR does come in, they're ready to go?
Clarify for me. Are you talking on the SDR side, what they can do themselves, or we're talking an organization getting it set up?
Both.
Okay. I would say if you're coming in as an SDR, you don't necessarily have the strongest background as an SDR. Your company's not providing that training. Find whatever resources that you possibly can, whether that's speaking with a manager. Hey, what do you guys expect of me, metrics wise, as an SDR, instead of just, here's what the company is selling and wants to do, or finding resources on your own. That's a huge factor, I guess, that I would say that I look for when I'm hiring, for example, is somebody who's passionate and going to go find a way to be successful for themselves. Whether that's, hey, I'm not being trained as an SDR, I need to figure it out, whatever it might be there. As an organization, just understand how valuable of an asset that your sales development team is, and know that they are different. They're not your sales team. They're not your marketing team. They're a bridge in between. So fully understand the role that you want them to play and have proper expectations for them and make sure you're managing and training to that.
Awesome. So let's kind of dive down into the optics of the ramp period. What resources should an SDR get in the first 90 days to get the ball rolling?
I would say starting top down, you want to understand ultimately what is the end goal. As an SDR, are you going to be expected to set a certain number of appointments? Are you going to be expected to get a certain number of qualified opportunities for your closer? Are you managing to a specific territory? Are you managing to a specific rep? Understanding high level what information that you are going to be judged on. From there, having that information, how are you going to run your day-to-day? What resources are being given to you? Are you working with a CRM tool? Are you working with a sales automation tool? Understanding what those tools are at your discretion. It's a very, very common mistake I see. Hey, I just need to come in and work really hard as an SDR. That's great. I want you to work hard, but don't work harder than you have to. Work smart and see what tools you have that are at your disposal to work that way. And then just making sure that you understand what your ramp time is. Typically I see anywhere from 2 to 4 months is a typical ramp time for an SDR, just depending on the size of the organization and the product you're working with. What is expected in that time? And if you feel that you're not getting the information that you need to be open and communicating. So you have your ramp, you're learning the SDR side, you're learning the processes, you're learning the product and the tools at your disposal. But if you're not getting what you need, make sure you're having those regular one-on-ones, either with your coach or your manager, to fill in the gaps if you're not seeing what you need. And that feedback is also helpful as we move on. For myself, feedback that I get from my SDRs is maybe there's something we're not providing that would be really helpful to you. I don't know unless you tell me. So if you're not getting something you need, you're probably not the only one. Come to us, let us know what that is. Don't be afraid to speak up just because you're new.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like that's hard for a lot of people to speak up, because they may not be, in most organizations, they feel like they actually can't speak up and they're not actually getting the clarity or the clarification they need to actually get the insight that they need at the end of the day. So what I kind of want to touch on is like, what exactly have you seen the most powerful in that ramp up period? Has it been sitting down with that rep and listening to other calls? Has it been to maybe videos you sent them of other people who are doing content that are revolving around sales development? Or is it to say, here's a book that you need to read? What do you find the most impactful within that 90 days that a rep was like, I'm so glad you sent me that, or I'm so glad you did that for me?
As mean as it might sound, is just kind of pushing you out of the nest. So the first concentrated bit of ramp time. So typically for me, it's the first week or two. That's what's classroom very, very fire hose. You're going to get a lot of information really, really fast. Some of it might stick, some of it might not. But the most effective thing that I see is just getting you out and doing the job. Whether that's shadowing is a good place to start. That's always nice. Mock calls, listening to calls, that's always helpful. But hey, I'm just going to let you go out and do it, especially when you don't necessarily feel ready. You're like, oh my gosh, this is so much information. I don't know A to Z. If you know A, B, and C, you have at least enough information. Nothing is going to get you to learn and understand what you're doing faster than having to explain it to somebody else. So you'll get on the phone, somebody will answer. Your first call or two, you might completely freeze, and that's when you have somebody shadowing you that can kind of jump in and help. But then everything you heard starts to click. Oh yeah, I remember my manager talked about this, or my coach mentioned that we do X, Y, and Z. Nothing is going to get you ramped up faster than getting your feet wet as soon as possible.
Awesome. And then how do you push someone to get their feet wet if they're reluctant to do that? I don't know. Having them be shadowed, I guess, is a good way to call it. So typically you think, shadowing, you'll have the new reps sit, YJack in, listen to a more experienced or one of the top reps to see what they're doing. But just reversing those roles. So, hey, maybe I'm a little worried. Don't leave me by myself. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, like
you're sitting with the person who you have shadowed, who's the experienced rep, who knows what they're doing, or even with a manager, and having them be the one listening in. So maybe you start to completely botch a call. That's totally fine. I'm sitting there with you. I can hop in, introduce myself, say, hey, I just want to clarify, let you know what's going on, but also making sure that your SDR knows that it's okay to not know an answer. I think that's a huge hurdle that everybody has to overcome, not just SDRs, that, oh, it's bad if I don't know the answer. You know what? If you're genuine and you level with your prospect, hey, I'm a little bit newer with my organization. I'm not sure. Let me find out for you. And then you follow up with them. Nope. 9 times out of 10, nobody's going to care that you don't know. So have somebody else shadow you, or be okay admitting that you don't know the answer, and you'll be just fine.
Awesome. And then in this process, do you have that peer-to-peer mentorship? Do you advise that for newer reps that are coming in, to be like, hey, like sit down with the top rep for maybe like a week and ask some questions so that they can actually see the real-time process?
Absolutely. Yes. Shadowing is a big part of it. Typically, you have the first day or two with HR, but then in succession with the in-classroom learning, you're going to be sitting with those top people. I also try very, very hard, if space permits in the organization, to make sure that a new rep is sitting by or right next to, in the same vicinity, the team lead or the top performer, or somebody who I just know is going to be great at answering their questions. So sometimes it's a little scary, or because of time constraints, you can't come straight to management or straight to a coach. But asking a peer, that you've been training with, that you're familiar with, just look over, hey, can you make sure that I wrote this email okay? Or hey, did that call sound okay? That's a huge resource for them to be able to utilize.
Right. And do you see people, do you see people doing that a lot, or there needs to be more of that happening?
I think there definitely needs to be more of it. It's easy when it's standardized. So if you have a specific person who, this is my team lead, who maybe it's just a title, but it's kind of the person who's the most senior on the team, or the most successful on the team, having that go-to person when there's questions, or, hey, maybe the manager's not available. We know this person is going to be the right person to go to. I think that's great. It doesn't necessarily have to be, hey, I'm paying you more, or it's, an official title. But for those people who want to use sales development as more of a stepping stone to get into coaching or into leadership down the road, having that name to them, having them be a team lead, I've seen for the most part, the people who are driven are going to be open to doing that. And then they'll own their business a little bit more. So instead of you having to be, the boss cracking the whip and saying, this is your team lead, you have this person who is actively coming to new reps or even the rest of the team and saying, hey guys, I want to help you out, or here's what I saw that was really successful. And peer to peer, that's going to be not necessarily better received, but just differently received than coming from top down management.
Yeah, definitely. And then within that process, what are things that reps and maybe management is doing that's actually slowing down the ramp time for new hires?
In my personal opinion, a lot of pointless meetings. I'm a huge fan of getting you out of a classroom, getting you out of a meeting room, getting you, like I said, getting your feet wet really, really fast. So I think that's a huge detriment, is too long of ramping or onboarding times. I've been at companies where onboarding is 4 weeks long, and you come out learning everything about the company, but you really know nothing about the role or the product. So there's just a huge misalignment there. The other thing is, I would say managers or reps not having enough trust in the rep or in themselves, depending on which way you're looking at it. This is new, and you're going to learn it. You're not always going to be hiring somebody who, is a 5, 7, 10-year SDR veteran, and they're really great, and you just let them go and they're good. Like we said, it's different than sales. Yeah. So not having enough trust, letting your rep just go and learn and make those mistakes. We've all been there as SDRs. You make a mistake, I guarantee you're most likely not going to make it again, because those first couple really, really sting. So having enough trust to know, hey, one mess up isn't going to burn down the business. They're going to learn really, really quickly. Just get out of their way. Get them out of the classroom. Get out of their way. And then just kind of keep watch from the wings, Yeah.
I think that's huge, is that I think the biggest thing that is the disconnect for ramp time is more so like too much information, and not, let's go back to what you said, is like not letting people like actually get involved.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Information is great. Binders can be very useful to go back and revisit, but having, hey, this is my curriculum and I have to get through it because it's on paper, and we have to go through this because it's in the binder. We can get bogged down with the red tape or with the processes. There's a time and a place, and it's absolutely very helpful. But also remember, you're managing many different personality styles. For one, I am nerdy. I'm analytical. Give me a spreadsheet. Give me a binder. I love it. That's how I'm going to learn. I've worked with reps, though. They're like, please just let me go play and dig and get my hands wet. I need to learn my CRM this way. Oh my gosh, don't show me another PowerPoint. I'm going to die. Just understand that there's different personality styles, and find that happy medium that's going to make the majority of your team successful out of the gate.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. How you talked about, hey, you might be nerdy and analytical, but I'm actually the person who actually likes to play with things and like figure it out. Like that's literally how I learned and how I was able to ramp fast. So I would say, is it a situational basis that we need to treat the ramp up period to where I actually can understand that person's like behavior and understand that person's like how their awareness is and like what they actually are good at? Or do I focus on one process for every single rep?
Again, I would say there's a happy medium. It would, even for me at least, go all the way back to the interview process or the hiring period, because there's a certain personality type that you want to make sure that you bring on. I could bring you on, and you're the smartest, you're that 5-year veteran SDR, we know you're going to kill it, but if you're not internally motivated, if you don't have that personal drive to be successful, I can't do anything for you. And that's actually really scary for me. So making sure you have somebody who understands themselves and knows where they want to go, I think starts way before you even get them in the classroom. And then I think, like I said, it's that happy medium. After that first week or so, there's just standard information that you need to be given as a new hire, about the company, about the processes. Here's how we do it as an organization, and to give you guidance. But then from there, understanding where your rep wants to go. I've had reps, hey, they want me to sit with them a little bit more, a lot more shadowing, hands-on, talking, going through the documents. I've had people who said, yep, I'm good. Let me go. Let me get on the phones. Let me just play with it. That's fine. They'll even do their own type of work or research after hours. That's just something you kind of got to feel out. So I don't know if that super answered the question. Start standardized and then kind of divulge from there is what I've seen as best practice.
Cool. No, that answers the question of just like, it's a situational basis, right? Like really understanding that individual. And when they come in, it's like, okay, maybe I need to be hands off on that person. Maybe I need to be more hands on. So that makes a lot of sense.
And if you don't honor that, I guess I'll say, that's going to be a huge detriment to your SDR ramping quickly. As you who likes to get in and play, if I'm like, no, we need to follow the process and we need to go through the spreadsheet and the PowerPoint and the binder, you're sitting here and you're just going to be burned out before you even get on the phones, versus somebody who needs that. And I just kick them out and say, hey, go play, go do your own thing. They're going to be so lost and overwhelmed, and they need that guidance. So making sure you understand the type of person or the type of rep you're working with is going to be a huge factor to getting your rep hot out of the gate.
100%. And, as we're winding down here and asking the last final questions, with the ramping period and what's going on, what other factors do you believe bring success to people getting ramped up quickly to where they're on par with top reps?
Relationships. The two biggest things that I looked for and managed towards are the analytics and the relationships. So understanding, hey, what is my role? What is my relationship? Am I working specifically with a sales rep? Am I working with a team of sales reps? Do I know the marketing team that's feeding me? Do I understand upper management and what they're looking for? So understanding not just, the product and the process and the expectations, but understanding the relationship around you. Because if you have those built, when you have questions or there's concerns, or you even want to get to a point where you can start providing meaningful feedback for your team, or moving forward for the organization, knowing those people, having those connections will be absolutely paramount in you being able to better do your job.
Awesome. And then the final question, what is the one piece of advice that you give to an SDR as they enter into their new role?
Biggest piece of advice I have is wherever you want to go, wherever you want to end up career-wise, you can take something from this role. So if you just do your best to be successful as an SDR, you should be able to take information from this role to go somewhere else. Typically that's sales or leadership. Those are the easy ones. But, hey, I want to help you go where you want to go. So just understand you can learn so much from the SDR role and apply it in so many other places. So just keep your eyes out for how this can align to your career path. And that ties back to hiring people who know where they want to go, but you can from this job, because it is so meaningful and so impactful in other places that you'll miss a big opportunity if you don't.
Cool. Awesome. Well, Alec, thank you so much for talking about the processes, the strategies, and just the mindset of how to ramp up SDRs quickly, as this is definitely something that's important across the board. So as I always say, guys, keep dialing, and I'll see you guys soon.